At the outset of the tale, we observe a neighborhood wrongdoer named Chung along with his companions, Lek and Fat, in pursuit of a duo who flee into the forest to dodge their capture. Nevertheless, the henchmen soon apprehend and savagely murder the pair. Subsequently, the narrative transitions to another pair, Yod and Bua, who share a profound affection for one another. They are planning to get married when the time comes. However, Yod's parents are not happy with their relationship because Bua is a mute girl. Additionally, Bua's financial situation is worsening as her father had left her and her mother for another woman, but despite this, Yod is willing to marry Bua. One day, while Yod and Bua are returning home after catching crabs from a river, some local thugs harass them and hit Bua with a rock before fleeing. This causes Bua to bleed from her head, prompting Yod to quickly take her home, where her mother applies ointment to her wound. And she tells him to take a rest. Following that, she heads towards the yacht and says to him that he could find a nice girl and a good family, so from now on, he should stop meeting the aunt. Yod responds, saying that he truly loves the aunt and doesn't care about the villagers' opinions. Thus, Yod decides to stay with the aunt despite the opposition from his family and villagers. Well, they reunite and head out to fish to pass the time, followed by cooking and consuming the catch. In the same hamlet resides Chain along with his pair of companions, seeming to lack any employment besides making mischief for others. Their survival also hinges on filching the possessions and finances of the populace. Chain is wed to a woman who frequently chastises him for his misdemeanors, yet he disregards her admonitions. On a day when Yod and the aunt are headed back after angling, they encounter Chain and his companions, who start to snatch the bucket filled with fish from them. In this place, the Chain inconveniences Bua, whereupon Yod begins to attempt a rescue, yet they quickly subdue her. At that moment, Chang's spouse appears and assists Yod and Bua against Chang and his companions. Come nightfall, as Yod returns to his residence, his father routinely advises him to pursue employment in Bangkok, since they are convinced that it's crucial for Yod to seek financial opportunities there. But Yod says he prefers living in the tranquility of the village over the city. The next morning, we see a dwarf thief who steals bananas from a shop and runs away. During this time, Bua also happens to pass by the shop with bananas, which makes the shopkeeper mistake her for the thief and starts scolding her. Poor Bua, being mute, cannot prove her innocence and starts crying. On the same day, Yod's mother visits Bua's mother and tells her that she will not marry her son to a mute girl, so keep Bua away from my son. Hearing all this, Bua becomes very upset. After that, Bua heads towards the fields. Weeping, she wonders why the entire village hates her. Soon after, Yod arrives and embraces her, promising to never leave her side and to marry her soon. Then they both leave to fish. Yod is seen mending the fishing net. During this, Chang and his accomplices arrive, kidnap Bua, and take her to the jungle, where Chang forcefully tries to strip her, leading Bua to fight back, but the three men brutally beat her. As Yod cannot locate Bua, he starts a thorough search in the vicinity. Discovering one of Bua's sandals, he senses that Bua is in peril and proceeds to search the forest for her. He witnesses Chang and his henchmen viciously assaulting Bua. In an attempt to rescue her, Yod confronts them but is easily subdued and brutally beaten by the trio. What follows is a horrific scene where Chang brutally attacks Bua, after which the henchmen murder the couple and conceal their bodies in the forest. They bury them in the jungle. Whenever her aunt fails to come back at night, her mother grows increasingly anxious, prompting her to visit Yod's household the following morning. It's there she discovers that Yod likewise hasn't come home since the prior evening. Apprehensive, the parents of both Yod and the aunt embark on a mission to find their offspring. They meet a man who tells them that Chang and his associates had been following Yod and aunt for some days. On learning this, they directly go to Chang's house, where Chang threatens and chases them away. Subsequently, they file a missing report at the police station and express their suspicion that Chang and his men might have harmed their children. The officer responds saying they don't have any evidence against Chang yet. Therefore, they cannot take any action. Moreover, the officer suggests that perhaps both children may have run away to start a new life in the city. Afterward, we see one of Chang's associates, Lek, wandering alone in the forest. In fact, he profoundly lamented his criminal actions and was unable to shake off his remorse. Shortly thereafter, Chang and Fat came up to him, inquiring about his well-being. Lake responded that lately, he's been in poor spirits and desired self-improvement. Moreover, he counseled Chang and Fat to cease their misconduct. Hearing this, Chang got angry and threatened Lake, saying, "If the police found out about our deeds, I will kill you." Now, the three went into the forest to hunt. While they were searching for animals in the forest, they suddenly saw the spirit of Aunt Boo, which frightened them terribly, and they were forced to flee from the forest. That night, the three gangsters were enjoying drinks with some girls. During this time, Lake excused himself to go to the restroom. When he was outside, he saw a girl dressed in white lying on the ground, so he approached her slowly and tried to turn her over to look at her. He turns to the girl and then realizes that it's none other than his aunt. Terrified by the sight of his aunt, the boy runs immediately to his friends. Anyway, after the party ends, they all head back to their respective homes, still haunted by the fear of the aunt. Especially the boy feels extremely scared. As he goes to bed, he keeps seeing the aunt attacking him, which disturbs him so much that he cannot sleep all night. The next morning, the boy meets his friend Fate, and while talking, he tells him about the terrifying incident he experienced, which leaves Fate shocked, and he shares that he's been having similar terrifying visions. Here, the boy suggests Fate should leave the village and look for a job in the city to escape this trouble. Additionally, the boy says that if the villagers find out about our misdeeds, they will ruin us. After which Fate says that it's very difficult for people like us to find a job, so we'll have to stay in the village. Now, the three of them once again head to the forest to go hunting. In the meantime, Auntie arrives beside the lake and initiates a pursuit of Lake, who becomes frightened and starts to sprint to escape and preserve his life. As he makes his getaway, out of the blue, he is struck on the head by a timber branch. Thus, he proceeds to the restroom to refresh himself. It is there he encounters the apparition of Yacht, which terrifies him even more. The following day, Fat, troubled by the fear of Perish, visits the temple to seek divine intervention to spare his existence. Subsequent to that, he encounters Chang and decides to divulge his wrongdoings before the townspeople. Fat did not want to remain silent anymore, so he began to insist that he would tell everything to the villagers. At this, Chang began to beat him mercilessly and even threatened to kill him. Consequently, Fat stayed quiet out of fear. That night, Chang too had a frightening dream in which the spirits of Yacht and Bua had him tied to the bed and were haunting him. They approached him with an axe in hand. The next day, we see Fat fishing in a nearby river, during which he hears a scare that distresses him greatly, and he looks around but sees no one. Suddenly, he hears the splash of something falling into the water, which frightens him even more. Now, scared, he tries to flee from the forest, but then someone grabs him from behind and forcefully drowns him in the water, leading to Fat's death as well. Here, with the sudden deaths of Lake and Fat, Chang's father becomes worried about his own son. Therefore, he tells Chang that he should confess his sins. And if you do not do so, you will meet the same fate as your comrades. But Chang still outrightly refuses to confess his crimes, fearing that if he told everything, the villagers would hand him over to the police, and then he would be sent to jail as punishment. Later at night, when he is with his wife, he hears a noise from the kitchen, startling him, and he wakes his wife and asks her if she heard a noise from the kitchen just now. Instead of answering, his wife scolds him severely because Chang has disrupted her sleep. Nevertheless, his wife falls back asleep and Chang tries to sleep as well. But then, he hears the same noises again, which starts to scare him badly. Therefore, he gets up immediately and goes to turn on the light, where he finds that the tube light in his house is broken. Now, as Chang is afraid of the dark, he thinks of lighting a candle, but when he lights the candle, it mysteriously snuffs out on its own. Afterwards, Chang lights the candle again, and as he turns around, he is confronted by the ghost of his aunt, frightening him immensely. In panic, he grabs a knife and repeatedly attacks her, only to realize during the assault that he has not struck his aunt but his own wife, causing her death. Here, Chang cannot believe that he has killed his own wife. Following this, Chang begins to cry like a child. Then, an unknown person approaches from behind, attacks him, and knocks him out. When Chang regains consciousness later, he finds himself tied up. Just then, Yod and the aunt appear, who are still alive. Chang is shocked to see both of them alive. where Yod and the aunt reveal that Chung and his companions had buried them alive. Moreover, after the trio departed having interred them, it soon began to rain. The downpour aided Yod and the aunt in awakening and, by some means, they extricated themselves from the grave, ensuring their survival. After they helped each other nurse their wounds, they decided to stay in the forest for several days so they could fully recover and exact their revenge on Chung and his accomplices. After some time, having fully healed, they began their retribution. Having realized that to eradicate evil, they had to resort to it, they started tormenting their enemies, subsequently eliminating them one by one. Hearing the whole story of Yod and Bua, Chung begs for his life, but they are unmoved by his pleas and take their revenge by ending his life. With that, the movie concludes.